peace. He's calmed down. Jiangli whispered to her, "See the power of the red dust fairy? Even an immortal can't resist it." The immortal elder didn't hold it against the junior. He was more concerned about the information. "So, the red dust fairy, she's really been resurrected." He sighed and mumbled, "Something like this, back when I was in the Great Zhou Imperial Dynasty. No wonder you suddenly came looking for me, saying there was a beautiful woman fighting." The immortal elder seemed to realize something. "It seems to be a body-born spirit. A new soul has been born." The immortal elder glanced over, then recalled and explained. There are examples of this in the immortal world. Next were his words. "After an immortal dies, the immortal power remaining in the body does not dissipate. The body is incorruptible, and over a long period, it can give birth to a new consciousness without the memories of the original body, becoming a completely new existence. Among them, body-cultivating immortals are the most prone to this situation." The immortal elder continued to explain to the two. "Didn't you already hypothesize about the birth of a new soul? A body-born spirit belongs to this category. Be it spirit power or immortal power, they will eventually give birth to a new soul." Jiangli asked his question. "Then why does she sleep?" He stroked his beard and answered, "A psychological issue. A newly born soul knows nothing about itself and the world." The image of the red dust fairy appeared in his mind. "Yet it possesses extremely immense power. They will feel confused and afraid, preferring to use sleep to escape." The immortal elder gave a gentle smile. "After you told the red dust fairy some stories about her past, her sleeping time has been continuously decreasing. This is the process of gradually accepting her self." After hearing this, Jiangli couldn't help but feel impressed. Immortal Elder Changsuan has been in the immortal world for tens of thousands of years after all. His knowledge is profound. Just as he was about to praise him further, he saw the elder stealthily trying to sneak away. "Found." Jiangli was blunt. "Don't you go past the newly born red dust fairy and sneak off to the red dust pure land." Being exposed, the immortal elder felt guilty and denied it vehemently. "How could I? Am I that kind of person?" He grimaced, feeling wronged. "How did this brat see through my thoughts with just one glance?" Seeing this, he couldn't do anything to the immortal elder and could only sigh. "I'm not kidding. I still have no clue how to properly handle the matter of the red dust fairy." Jiangli looked at him with a threatening gaze. "It's one thing if she stays in the red dust pure land, but what if she wants to go out? Should we let her out or not?" He became more serious. "Right now, only a few people know about her. Don't you cause any more trouble." The immortal elder fell silent, then replied, "I know." He thought to himself, agreeing to speak of this matter shows complete trust. As an elder, I cannot betray that trust. He slowly approached the elder. "And one more thing. There's a man in black 380 years ago." After a long story, he finally finished recounting it. The immortal elder was a bit surprised. "There's such a thing? If the man in black scheme had succeeded, was he afraid it would affect the human emperor's power of faith?" "Emperor?" Jiangli silently nodded in confirmation. After that, the speed at which the bronze cauldron in the human emperor hall gathered the power of faith slowed down slightly. Jingxin spoke up to comfort him. "You did nothing wrong, so why would there still be an effect?" He looked up at the sky, his expression weathered. "Some people support me for upholding justice and forsaking kinship. But naturally, there are also people who think I damaged familial bonds and lack humanity." Jiangli put a hand to his chin and said to himself, "What I'm concerned about is, how could this man in black plan so far ahead? If I weren't so powerful that I don't need the power of faith, his scheme might have actually worked." He recalled Yixing's back and calculated. To be able to casually raise Jiang Yixing from the mid-stage foundation establishment to Golden Core, one would need to be at least at the late-stage spirit transformation to do that. Moreover, Jiang Yixing's talent was ordinary back then, and he had no backing. Who would be bored enough to teach him the demonic path? Jiangli analyzed seriously. Rather than saying someone randomly taught Jiang Yixing the demonic path, I'm more inclined to think it was a battle against me, or rather, a conspiracy targeting the human emperor. The scene cuts back to reality. They were now in Changsuan's courtyard. Jiang Li and Jingxin were standing and listening to his assessment and thoughts. "I think, what if someone saw your future through the Tao of Time? What if someone proficient in the law of affinity or the chi-gazing technique saw your affinity with the human emperor or saw that you possess the air of a human emperor. Hearing this, he was a little confused and asked, "The law of affinity, the chi-gazing technique, what are those?" The immortal elder sat cross-legged and was not surprised by Jiang Li's question. "It's normal that you don't know. The law of affinity is about fate. What is fated will be, and what is not cannot be forced." After speaking, he continued to explain. As for the chi-gazing technique, people believe that everyone has an aura above their head of different colors, and what one obtains is also different. Chang Tzuan stroked his long white beard and continued to speak gently. These are all long-lost cultivation methods. Even if there are ruined temples or Taoist monasteries, there might still be some remnant cultivation methods, or they've already been stolen by others. After listening to him for a while, Jiang Li sighed. He thought to himself, although I have a clue, where do I even start investigating? Suddenly, Jing Xin, who was beside him, spoke with some confusion. However, why would someone want to destroy the human emperor's faith? She thought about it and felt something was not right. How would the men in black benefit from the human emperor being weakened? As for Jiang Li, he just silently listened to Jing Xin voice all her doubts. Then who would be able to stop the extraterrestrial heavenly demons? Upon hearing this, it was as if he had an epiphany. He held his chin and thought, "That's right, I actually overlooked such a simple principle." On the contrary, it was Chang Tzuan. He did not answer a question, but just glanced to the side in silence. And Jiang Li was still immersed in his own thoughts. The weakening of the human emperor only benefits the extraterrestrial heavenly demons. He once again remembered those mysterious figures in black cloaks. A traitor has appeared in the 9 provinces, and it's even possible that the extraterrestrial heavenly demons have snuck into the 9 provinces. After staying in the immortal elder's courtyard for a while, the two left in a relaxed mood. While walking on the road, they suddenly heard a voice from behind them. "You're not allowed to enter." It turned out to be Ji Kong behind them. Behind the little girl stood 2 guards. Ji Kong's expression was stern as she issued a warning. "Father Emperor and Uncle Feng are refining a weapon inside." Father Emperor said that no one can enter until the refinement is complete. After hearing the little girl, the two began to look around to get their bearings. Jiang Li hummed, "This is the entrance to the weapon refinement cauldron. I was thinking about something and ended up here without noticing." He was thinking about the 4 famous types of treasures in the cultivation world. All techniques in the world originate from the Tao sect. There are 4 types of external forces that cultivators rely on the most: pills, spirit treasures, talismans, and formations. Moreover, the Tao sect has a pill refinement peak, a weapon refinement peak, a talisman peak, and a formation peak, which are the leaders in these 4 external forces. At this moment, Jing Xin saw that the one who had just spoken was a fair and lovely little girl and went to pat Ji Kong's head. "What a cute little girl. What's your name?" Seeing a stranger from who knows where patting her head, the little girl covered her head and arrogantly introduced herself. "Don't touch me. I am a 19th princess of Great Zhou, Ji Kong." Jiang Li, who had been lost in thought, immediately paid attention upon hearing this. He smiled and asked Ji Kong, "So your father emperor is Ji?" Jiang Li was smiling on the surface, but a storm was brewing in his heart. He cracked his knuckles, as if preparing to beat someone up. "Old by nose, I'm pretending to be the Tao sect's walker." Ji must have been the one who told him. Ji Kong was a little curious upon hearing Jiang Li's question. To be able to say Father Emperor's name directly, "Are you acquainted with him?" Hearing the little girl's tender voice, he smiled at Ji Kong and replied, "No need to be so worried. After all, His Majesty and I are old friends." As soon as Jiang Li finished speaking, the 2 guards behind Ji Kong immediately bowed in a hurry. The Zhou Emperor's guards pay their respects to human Emperor Jiang. The little girl heard her subordinates greeting and suddenly realized something, her whole body trembling. Her jaw dropped and her eyes widened. A second later, her eyes sparkled as she looked at him with an admiring expression. "Uncle, are you human Emperor Jiang? I've heard Father Emperor talk a lot about you." Hearing this, Jiang Li became a little curious. He wondered what kind of person he was in Ji's words and asked the little girl, "What did he say?" When asked by Jiang Li, Ji Kong hurriedly began to recount for him. "Father Emperor said you are the great hero of the 9 provinces, a reincarnated true immortal. Father Emperor also told me about the difficult process of becoming the human emperor. He also said that you would protect the 9 provinces and fight against the extraterrestrial heavenly demons with Father Emperor. After hearing this, Gyani couldn't help but find it interesting. He clasped his hands behind his back and laughed loudly. I never expected Gigi to think of me that way. Gyani was overjoyed and thought to himself, all right, I'll be a little gentler when I beat up Gigi later. Jingxin, however, noticed another issue. She turned to ask Gyani, isn't he someone who doesn't know how to refine weapons? Why did he go to the weapon refinement cauldron? Hearing this, he replied, have you forgotten about his pupils? They are of great help in refining weapons. Inside the weapon refinement cauldron, Gigi and Uncle Feng were intently studying something. Every line on Gigi's face showed tension. Uncle Feng looked at the blueprint in his hand and spoke up. What if we increase the firepower by another 10% after half an hour? Could it succeed? Hearing this, Gigi used the power of his divine sense to look over the blueprint. After he was done, he sighed, shook his head in dismay, and said to the man, it won't work. If we do that, the furnace will explode in an instant. Hearing this, Uncle Feng had to find another plan. Then what about changing the heavenly mountain pure water to snowy mountain pure water? Yet the answer he received was no different from before. It won't work. That would cause a huge explosion. The man continued to offer suggestions. Gigi continued to deny it. It won't work. The man continued. Then he denied it again. It won't work. Uncle Feng didn't give up. Then Gigi had used too much of his power and was exhausted. Seeing the result before him, he breathed a sigh of relief. It can actually succeed. Suddenly, he saw something. Gigi's expression changed 180 degrees. Uncle Feng noticed the abnormality and asked, what's wrong? It was unknown what he had seen in the future, but his mood plummeted. Gigi replied, I saw that I'm going to get beaten up later. Uncle Feng, who was beside him, couldn't help but be curious. By who? The man thought to himself. Since Gigi can see the future, he can avoid it. It should be fine. Gigi's face was written with 2 large words of despair as he replied to the man, it's Gyani. After speaking, without waiting for the man to say anything more, he turned and left. I'm leaving first. Seeing him abandon his post like that, Uncle Feng cursed inwardly. This glib-tongued fellow must have said something else to provoke human Emperor Jiang again. So the man had to resort to using an item as a trade. Uncle Feng grabbed Gigi's hand and tempted him. I went to the pill refinement cauldron and found a great recovery pill. If that doesn't work, I still have friends in the Qian Corp sect. Being grabbed, he flailed like a shrimp. Let go of me. Your heart is as black as the furnace. Fire. Just as Gigi finished speaking, someone kicked open the door of the weapon refinement cauldron, causing him to fall silent as a sense of unease welled up. At this moment, Gigi lowered his eyes to the floor, his mind racing with calculations. If this were our home turf in Great Zhou, I'd still have the confidence to deal with Jiang for a round or two, but we're in the Dao sect now. Before Gigi could finish his thoughts, Jiang had already approached and raised his fist, making his face turn pale with fear. Knowing he couldn't escape this calamity, Gigi left a final plea. Don't hit the face. He was also very magnanimous and agreed. All right. On another side, Hongtu was presiding over a grand assembly. He announced, I declare the Dharma Treasure Appreciation Assembly. A giant seal appeared among the mountain ranges. Officially begins. A giant blue seal appeared among the mountain ranges. Jiang Li, Jingxin, Hongtu, and others stood on the bridge. Above the small pavilion, in the middle of the bridge, a heavenly seal was created. Hongtu stood there with his hands behind his back and announced, I declare the Dharma Treasure Appraisal and Appreciation Assembly now begins. In Jiang Li's mind, he could already imagine a host stirring up the atmosphere. Esteemed audience, hello everyone. Welcome to the Dharma Treasure Appraisal Assembly organized by the Dao sect. Now, let me explain this assembly to everyone. The more he thought, the darker his expression became, which even caught the attention of Jingxin beside him. The much-anticipated exhibition of immortal artifacts from various factions is about to begin. It's called an exhibition, but it's actually a battle of techniques. She observed for a moment and then asked, Are you looking forward to the next performance? Jiang Li replied with a straight face. Not really, it's just normal. But in his mind, that other person was still excitedly holding a microphone and hosting. The match begins immediately. Please watch the scene. Time for the introduction of the contestants. Following the introduction, everyone will come out one by one. Hong Tu is the same. First to enter the arena is contestant by Hong Tu of the Dao sect. What wonderful performances will he bring us? Let's wait and see. He then flew in front of a person who looked reserved and solemn. Jiang Li, playing the role of the host, commented, "All right, we see that contestant by Hong Tu is in the Tribulation Transcendent stage." Unexpectedly, he shamelessly chose the Confucianism sect master. Jiang Li directly looked down on Hong Tu. Only contestant Dong Zhongren at the integration stage as his opponent. The man didn't even glance at him, turning his head to the side. The voice rang out again. Contestant Dong Zhongren is ignoring contestant by Hong Tu's challenge. What should contestant by Hong Tu do? Hong Tu refused to give up. He tauntingly gave the other person the middle finger, infuriating him. Contestant by Hong Tu has issued a challenge. Contestant by Hong Tu is challenging contestant Dong Zhongren. The chattering commentary continued in Jiang Li's mind. The challenge is extremely unpleasant, truly infuriating. As a host, if I heard such words, I would definitely have to fight him. I wonder what choice the Confucianism sect master, who is skilled in cultivating his temperament, will make. Over here, having achieved his goal, Hong Tu sinisterly flew away, leaving the man below pointing and cursing. As expected, we see contestant Dong Zhongren trembling with anger. Contestant Dong Zhongren is ignoring contestant by Hong Tu's challenge. The voice in his head called for applause. Contestant by Hong Tu's methods are extremely despicable, but it seems to have worked. Let's applaud the courage of contestant Dong Zhongren. Jiang Li's face remained stern, but he unconsciously raised his hands and clapped a few times, confusing Jingxin. Now, it was his turn to counterattack. Contestant Dong Zhongren has taken out the Great Confucian's alphabet slate, the genuine Great Confucian's alphabet slate. Today we are truly fortunate to see a genuine immortal artifact. The two stood opposite each other in the formation. Hong Tu was waiting for Dong Zhongren's counterattack. Zhongren looked at Hong Tu with contempt and challenged him smugly. This is the immortal artifact appraisal and appreciation assembly. We must fight with immortal artifacts. Your Dao sect's only immortal artifact is on the exhibition stand. What will you fight with? He remained unfazed, with one hand behind his back. He replied as calmly as ever. You can't say that. This is an assembly held by our Dao sect. How can our Dao sect not participate in the fight? It would be as if the Dao sect has no presence. The next second, he flew up, a stream of green light surrounding Hong Tu. Come on, I won't bully you. I won't use a weapon. He flew straight toward Zhongren and raised his fist in front of him, fighting barehanded against someone holding an immortal artifact. He was so angry he was speechless. By Hong Tu, you bastard. As soon as he finished speaking, Hong Tu's fist landed squarely on his face. The commentary voice continued. Contestant Dong Zhongren was just trying to enlighten contestant by Hong Tu. Contestant by Hong Tu, however, showed no martial virtue. He launched a sneak attack. Host Jiang Li is very indignant about this behavior. The match hasn't even started. By Hong Tu, a Tribulation Transcendent stage cultivator has sneak attacked an integration stage cultivator. I invite the host to scold him. You, by Hong Tu. At this point, he refused to be outdone and began to use his magic power. Contestant Dong Zhongren writes the character Scram. Hong Tu was in a ready stance to deal with it. Jiang Li, on the side, also noticed Zhongren's action. He successfully stuck the Confucian slate on contestant by Hong Tu. How will contestant by Hong Tu respond? A second before the character Scram reached him, Hong Tu suddenly made a strange move. He, watching from the side, was also shocked. He took off his clothes, he took off his Taoist robe. After that, he smiled smugly as he watched the character Scram attach to the robe and fly away with it. Contestant by Hong Tu's Taoist robe has flown far away. Contestant by Hong Tu is still in place. He is completely unharmed. The voice in Jiang Li's head called for applause again. Wonderful, truly a spectacular fight. He once again followed his instincts and unconsciously clapped his hands together. Jingxin, beside him, experiencing this for the second time, was full of question marks. He's suddenly clapping again. At this moment, Hong Tu's robe flew down to the crowd of onlookers. Everyone clamored to grab it. The voice reminded, fellow cultivators, please do not fight over contestant by Hong Tu's Taoist robe. I invite the Tao sect disciples to maintain some order. Although it's very embarrassing, that Taoist robe is a Tao artifact. Please retrieve it. At the same time, his attack having failed, he continued to attack in a fit of anger. Let's return to the match. Contestant Dong Zhongren has written another character and is sticking it on contestant by Hong Tu. Facing him, he was not afraid at all and was extremely smug. He casually took off another layer of his robe. Contestant by Hong Tu has taken off another Taoist robe. Just how many Taoist robes is he wearing? It seems he came prepared today. Could it be that contestant Dong Zhongren will fail this time? Wait, Jiang Li, in his role as the host, noticed something was off. His expression was full of surprise. No, that's not right. The situation is not right. Contestant by Hong Tu's Taoist robe is assuming a fighting stance. The Taoist robe is about to attack contestant by Hong Tu, but his smugness was short-lived. Hong Tu turned around to see the two robes he had just taken off, preparing to rush in and deal with him. The little host found this scene interesting. Let's follow the screen to see what exactly happened. After observing the situation for a while, he came to a conclusion. It turns out that at this moment, contestant Dong Zhongren wrote the character Fight. This character can make anything fight for him. Realizing he had the advantage, he pressed his attack. Contestant Dong Zhongren is pressing his advantage. He continuously writes 3 fight characters. The 3 war characters he just wrote flew straight into the sky, transforming into something. It turns out they're becoming 3 of Zhongren's warriors. We can see the 3 war characters have turned into 3 golden armored gods. Each one is at the peak of the integration stage. At this moment, the young host Jiang Li lingered to provide some general knowledge. Host Little Jiang will explain a little for everyone. Then followed an explanation about the soldiers that were just created. The golden armored god is a Confucian guardian. In Confucianism, every disciple who breaks through to the integration stage will leave their shadow on a great Confucian's character. Hung Tu was now at a disadvantage. He looked around, trying to think of a way to handle the situation. Just by writing the war character on the template, those shadows will transform into Confucian guardians, protecting Confucianism. Both robes, along with the newly created soldiers, advanced in unison. With his powerful body, Hung Tu quickly dodged. Alright, they're also watching the extremely fierce battle. Contestant by Hung Tu has fallen into a disadvantageous position. He had just turned around when he saw Zhongren attacking. He dodged again. He was besieged by his own robe and the 3 golden armored gods. He also had to be wary of contestant Dong Zhongren's attacks. However, one person cannot fight against so many. He was careless and took a blow from his own robe. Witnessing this scene, Jiang Li cried out in his heart. Contestant by Hung Tu has been hit very hard. He, in his role as the host, was leisurely eating a slice of melon, then spoke up to comfort everyone. Please, everyone do not worry. During the transitional phase, blood can be used for revival. Contestant by Hung Tu cannot die. Just as Jiang Li predicted, right after being hit, Hung Tu immediately turned to counterattack. He gave that robe a kick. Contestant by Hung Tu has taken the initiative. He sent the robe and the golden armored god flying. A second later, he turned and gave him a punch that made him cough up blood. He hit contestant Dong Zhongren. The young host on the side shook his head in dismay. This battle scene is so tragic it's hard to watch. A sincere reminder, please have adults accompany other adults to watch this. After being hit, he urgently sought a way to respond. How will contestant Dong Zhongren respond? He has returned with a character tablet. Right after he wrote that character, the wound on Zhongren's face vanished. Jiang Li also noticed he has returned to his original state. Only now did he begin to use his magical power to fight. Under the watchful eyes of the world, it was also seen that contestant by Hung Tu has used a Taoist art. A river continuously churned, lying horizontally across the sky. That is the Dao Sec's river and sea overturning art. Hung Tu's river was about to hit Zhongren when it was blocked by the great Confucian's calligraphy. The river rushed towards contestant Dong Zhongren. The momentum was terrifying. It was collected by contestant Dong Zhongren using the collect character calligraphy. The two of them thus fell into a tug-of-war in the air. The battle was extremely fierce. Contestant by Hung Tu continuously used Taoist arts. Contestant Dong Zhongren continuously responded with character tablets. The two of them traded blows back and forth. A second later, he found another way. Contestant Dong Zhongren wrote a death character. He stuck it on contestant by Hung Tu's forehead. Struck by this death character, Hung Tu's soul immediately left his body. His body went limp. It was visible to the naked eye. Contestant by Hung Tu's soul has left his body. Although he had become a soul, he was still determined not to let Zhongren go. Jiang Li, on the outside, was extremely astonished by this peak. ceiling-shattering, soul-leaving display from Hung Tu. He is preparing to launch an attack on the soul. Can contestant Dong Zhongren stop it? The two of them, gritting their teeth, glared at each other with murderous eyes. But what made them even more annoyed was Jiang Li's voice ringing out. It seems both contestants have realized this is just a friendly match. The recent moves were a bit excessive. Both of them, in a state of displeasure, voluntarily, on a mandatory basis, shook the opponent's hand as is customary. The young host, Jiang Li, also spoke without much enthusiasm. We see the two contestants shaking hands to make peace. Their handshake seems to be lasting a bit long, but in reality, they're secretly having a contest of strength. Hung Tu slowly increased his grip strength. As a reporter for the station, he, of course, did not miss a single detail and quickly saw contestant by Hung Tu's veins popping. As for him, he was using great Confucian calligraphy to increase his strength. It turns out contestant Dong Zhongren was tightly gripping a strength character tablet behind his back. After a moment of psychological struggle, the contestants finally let go of each other's hands, unhappily. Seeing this, the young host in Jiang Li's mind screamed. The two contestants have finally let go. The first round has ended beautifully. Jing Xin, sitting beside him, seemed to sense something and asked curiously, "Why do I get the feeling that your heart was just very lively?" Having his thoughts read, Jiang Li maintained his expression and pretended to deny it. Not at all. Hearing that, she didn't press further and change the subject. If the two of them had wanted to continue fighting just now, who would have won? Catching the good question, Jiang Li immediately answered. Dong Zhongren used all his strength, but Bai Hung Tu was very relaxed, not using any formations or talismans. He closed his eyes, smiled lightly, and continued to analyze for Jing Xin. Moreover, the gap in their combat experience is too large. Dong Zhongren cannot compare to Bai Hung Tu. Hearing this, she understood to some extent, but still had a question. I remember that an immortal artifact can compensate for the gap between the integration stage and the tribulation transcendence stage. Jiang Li, receiving the question, calmly continued to answer. Are you talking about an offensive immortal artifact? Yes, for example, the mountain stone of Penglai Immortal Island. He rubbed his chin, thinking about something, then showed interest in the topic. If the island master of Penglai, Mo Ryu, were to wield her mountain stone, then Bai Hung Tu could only obediently take the beating. Just as Jiang Li finished speaking, someone approached from somewhere and spoke. The human emperor thinks so highly of me. It turned out to be Ryu, who happened to hear her name mentioned and lingered to say a few words. Seeing that the very person he was talking about had appeared, he just smiled to brush it off. Not at all, not at all. I was just speaking the truth. I wonder if Island Master Mo wishes to challenge the Buddhist sect's Brahma Tower. And the one who wields the Buddhist sect's Brahma Tower, whom Jiang Li just mentioned, was none other than Wu Ji. He pointed out a series of names. After Wu Ji, there was also Yu Yin, with the Rui gourd of the Tianyuan Imperial Dynasty. Next in line is Ji Ji, or rather, the ancient classic sword of the Great Zhou Imperial Dynasty. Being asked like that, Rui calmly analyzed her feelings for him. The old Buddha is not here, and I've fought the Rui gourd quite a few times. On the contrary, the ancient classic sword of Great Zhou, I've heard it can disrupt time and space. It's not for fighting. After speaking, she walked towards where he was standing. Ji, let me ask for a lesson from your Great Zhou's ancient classic sword. He also smiled very amicably and agreed. All right. After accepting, Ji began to calculate. In the Tao sect, under the blessing of a national fate, I can only reach the peak of the integration stage. It's a suitable time to fight Mo Ryu, who is also at the peak of the integration stage. After a moment of calculation, the next friendly match was finally about to begin. The two, Ryu and Ji, were on the stage, preparing to fight. The one to strike first was Ryu. She smiled lightly and took out a small mountain. Jing Xin, who was observing from the side, recognized it upon seeing the small mountain. It's the other mountain stone. She had long heard of this artifact's fame. Now, seeing it with her own eyes, it turned out to be different from her imagination. A top-grade offensive immortal artifact. Whenever thrown, it is guaranteed to hit the opponent. I didn't expect its principle to be a small stone. Jiang Li was also thoroughly enjoying it. He stood to the side, arms crossed, appreciating this unique spectacle. Island Master Mo, holding the other mountain stone at the integration stage, is an invincible existence. The scene of him being attacked by this one blow appeared in his mind. Zhang Konghu, famous for his body cultivation, reaction, was nearly dead after taking a direct hit. Now, facing the other mountain stone, Gyani did not show any weakness. He also began to take out his artifact. After a flash of golden light, the ancient classic sword appeared in its true form in Gyani's hand. Seeing that the other side was ready, Rui gently flicked her finger and the other mountain stone flew in that direction. The further it flew, the greater its power became, and the trail it left was not small. Gyani, noticing the other mountain stone was about to reach him, used his magical power, raising his sword in preparation. It, confident in its inherent power, still advanced with great momentum to attack him. Suddenly, all that momentum vanished. The other mountain stone stood still in midair. In truth, Gyani didn't expend much effort. He had blocked Ryu's other mountain stone just by doing that, so gently. Jingxin, watching from below, was a bit surprised after seeing this scene. She thought to herself, Gyani just waved his sword lightly. The other mountain stone, which was rapidly smashing towards him, slowed down, losing all its power. Her words came out with a slight stutter. This is the power of time. Jingxin then recalled a legend she had heard before. I have heard of the great name of the ancient classic sword. It was from the Ji family's ancestor, that time-flowing dragonfish. When he ascended, he refined its shed skin into a fishbone sword, which can influence time and space. After speaking, she rested her chin on her hand, thinking dreamily. But as for how it specifically applied, I'm not clear. Jiang Li, having heard Jingxin speak, also spoke up to confirm. You're right, it is the power of time. He further analyzed the previous scene for her. Gyani's one sword strike stirred the other mountain stone's own time and space, making the other mountain stone fly for several years. He didn't forget to add some other information. The other mountain stone's follow-up power is endless, but its characteristic is that it will definitely hit the enemy. So even if it's no longer a threat, it can only continue to fly towards Gyani. At this time in the sky, Ryu, observing that the other mountain stone was neutralized, flicked her finger to command it to return. Collect. Following her call, it changed direction and returned. But just as the other mountain stone touched Ryu's palm, Gyani's sword strike was also just about to arrive. She wisely flew to the side, quickly, and nimbly dodging that move. It seemed she had completely avoided that blow from Gyani. However, as soon as she turned her back, she saw her shoulder had been hit. In Ryu's mind, she only had time to realize, how did this suddenly appear here? Ryu staggered, clutching her injured shoulder. Just as she turned her head, the next move had already arrived. In a flash, she once again nimbly jumped up to dodge that move. However, the situation was the same as before. She turned her head and saw her shoulder was injured again. After being injured twice, Ryu seemed to realize something. She looked at Gyani on the other side and thought to herself, is that the effect of the ancient classic sword? He was still using the power of time to observe her at this moment. Ryu looked into Gyani's eyes and then completely understood. I see. This isn't the effect of the ancient classic sword, but Gyani's double pupils, which can see the future, so his swordsmanship is like it's predicting the future, thus striking me. Having solved the puzzle, she immediately moved far away. She already had another tactic in mind, so in close combat with Gyani, I'll only be at a disadvantage. Ryu flew on and on until a great distance separated the two of them. Then she stopped. She once again used the other mountain stone to attack Gyani from afar. Her mind was filled with the determination to fight. Watch me. The other mountain stone in her hand was launched and flew at super fast speed. In Ryu's mind, she was also secretly controlling it. Use one to become 10,000. Immediately after, from one other mountain stone, many were cloned. She thought smugly to herself, I don't believe you can resolve so many other mountain stones surrounding you. Immediately after, tens of thousands of other mountain stones flew like stray bullets towards Gyani. He was not flustered at all, remaining calm and composed as he watched it. But not only that, Gyani once again used the ancient classic sword to deal with this attack. History repeated itself. Gyani had just lightly raised the ancient classic sword, and the tens of thousands of other mountain stones about to reach him were blocked. The ancient classic sword had now created a barrier encircling Gyani to protect him from the rain of other mountain stones. Ryu, watching from afar, saw her move was once again ineffective and fell into deep thought. This is like using GG as the center, drawing out a domain. Within the domain, the time of all things is infinitely prolonged. After that display, GG put the ancient classic sword behind his back, his face unchanging as he asked her, "Island Master Imo, how is the power of the ancient classic sword?" Ryu, having failed in 2 attacks, could only smile and admit defeat. "I am thoroughly convinced." Jingxin, standing outside watching this scene, didn't understand anything and asked curiously, "What did Gigi do? Why did the sword chi seem to predict Island Master Mo's actions, always appearing in the right position to injure her?" Jiang Li, hearing her question, didn't rush to answer, just grumbled, "I've also suffered from that trick." Ryu flew down from above, returning to where the two had fought. She didn't spare a word of praise. The double pupils and the ancient classic sword are truly a perfect combination. That's what she said, but in her mind, Ryu already understood her own position. She sighed, thinking to herself, the power of his other mountain stone has not even been shown. I was constantly being injured by the ancient classic sword. The sword chi not causing fundamental damage was already a sign of Ji's goodwill. To answer her question, Jiangli resentfully explained to Jingxin the tactic he used in battle. Long ago, Gigi had predicted he would be challenged, using his double pupils to see in advance who the challenger would be, when, and where. He gave a rough analysis of how the ancient classic sword works and how Gigi uses it. In the past, he used the ancient classic sword to leave a stream of sword chi in advance. Jiangli continued to explain to Jingxin. In the present, the sword chi left in the past now appears, striking the challenger. After analyzing it all, he concluded with a sentence. Now, that is also the ability of the ancient classic sword. Jingxin, hearing this long explanation from him, understood to some extent. She nodded, so that's how it is. Jiangli stood to the side with his arms crossed. He smiled and commented, Island Master Imo lost only because she was unfamiliar with the ancient classic sword. His other mountain stone can attack all things, can shatter space, and can also strike directly into the river of time. Accompanying his words was a long explanation from Jiangli. If Island Master Imo knew the ability of the ancient classic sword, she could have used her other mountain stone to strike the river of time, causing the river of time to ripple. The future would become chaotic. The power of the double pupils and the ancient classic sword would therefore be greatly reduced. Just as he finished speaking, Hung Tu approached from somewhere and spoke up. What a pity for Island Master Imo. Jiangli, recalling the earlier scene, teased him. Have you gotten your Taoist robe back? He didn't answer that question, but just observed the situation and asked. So right now, what hasn't been on stage is... Jiangli quickly cut Hung Tu off. The Dragon Pearl of the Four Seas, and the remaining one is, of course, Yu Yin, with the Rui gourd of the Tianyuan Imperial Dynasty. He showed interest, tilting his head to look at her, then called out, Hey, Yu Yin, it's your turn. Yu Yin didn't say much, just a soft sound to show she had heard. Suddenly, Wu Ji pointed up at the pavilion roof and said loudly, Look, the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal is changing. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal had flown up a distance from the pavilion roof. It was undergoing some strange transformation. Then suddenly, the entire sky darkened, and sparks emanated from the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal. It was like a giant black hole surrounded by lightning and fire, causing a considerable tremor. The people standing under the pavilion were all trembling, looking for something to hold on to. Everyone was struggling greatly. A man thought to himself, this heavenly might, it's too terrifying. I can't breathe, I can't speak. It was as if the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal refined itself one more round, it would touch a taboo, and the heavenly Tao would not be merciful. Hung Tu, on this side, noticed the situation was not good, and his heart couldn't help but feel uneasy. This tribulation is truly terrifying, not something a mortal can face. I just don't know. Compared to Jiang Li's heavenly tribulation, which one is more terrifying? He turned his head to look at Jiang Li, who was still calm beside him, and couldn't help but worry. Although I want to ask him how this tribulation is under this heavenly might, I can't open my mouth. Jiang Li facing the shaking of heaven and earth, didn't even frown. He calmly rested his chin on his hand, thinking about something. The turbulent waves in Hung Tu's heart calmed down somewhat. But with this guy's leisurely appearance, it's probably useless to ask. Suddenly, Chang Tsun stepped forward from behind the two of them. His voice rang out. It is the four tribulations of earth, water, fire, and wind. He looked up at the heaven seal that was shaking heaven and earth, then continued. The immortal world has a saying that the world is composed of four elements. Speaking of this, Chang Tsun's tone became more serious. These four great tribulations can create a world and can also destroy a world. They are utterly terrifying. Suddenly, the heaven seal changed again. The crowd below vied to make predictions. Look, the yin-yang heaven seal, baptized by the four layers of tribulation, is gradually becoming transparent, as if it's being reborn. At the same time, it emitted several strange rays of light. Next, the heaven seal shot two beams of light downwards from above. One green, one red. That red beam of light was a spark. It landed and set that patch of land on fire. From that spark, it gradually transformed into a churning river of lava. The green beam of light was a drop of water, and it was the same. It crashed down in one spot, causing that place to explode. After the aftershock of the explosion dissipated, a crater was revealed in that spot. Jingxin, observing the scene from below, was also quite shocked. She thought to herself, so powerful, just the trivial sparks and water droplets shot out by the four tribulations are enough to destroy heaven and earth. After that spark and water droplet landed, the heaven seal's tremors became even more violent. The surrounding lightning bolts also increased in number. Chang Tsun saw this, his expression turning grim, guessing that this matter would be extremely difficult. The four layers of tribulation will become stronger and stronger, wanting to destroy the heaven seal. Jiang Li, who had been observing all this time, heard this and spoke thoughtfully. The Tao ancestor was a man of immense talent, and the yin-yang heaven seal he refined is even more extraordinary. Hearing him say that, he also nodded and added, "That's right, all immortal artifacts need to undergo refinement by their masters to improve themselves. Only the yin-yang heaven seal is a special case. It can refine itself." While they were talking down here, the tremors in the sky above became more violent than ever. Chang Tsun continued, "In this terrifying tribulation, the yin-yang heaven seal continuously improves itself. In the end, it will pass through its body and transform into a crystal structure, perfect and flawless, unstained by dust." After a while, the result was in. The yin-yang heaven seal has succeeded. Only then did Hung to relax and cheer happily. The yin-yang heaven seal has broken through the four layers of tribulation. It's finally complete. Seeing this, everyone congratulated him in unison. Congratulations to Sect Master Bai for obtaining such an immortal artifact. Ruoyu continued, "The Tao sect has a profound background." Jiji also added, "Today has been an eye-opener." Suddenly, a childish voice rang out from somewhere. "A bunch of mortals with weak fleshly bodies. On what basis do you possess me?" Hung Tu, hearing this arrogant sound, couldn't help but frown in annoyance. Where's that baby coming from, talking like that? Speaking so rudely, truly uncultured. At this moment, Jiang Li, who had not taken his eyes off the heaven seal, answered his question. "It's up there." The heaven seal, seeing he was more astute than the others, didn't hold back a word of praise. "There's a sharp one, at least." Jingxin, standing beside him, was also stunned by this scene and exclaimed, "What's happening?" The yin-yang heaven seal is talking. Hung Tu on this side still couldn't understand what had happened and asked irritably, "Who are you? I've never heard of a talking treasure before, not even an immortal artifact." Hearing Hung Tu's question, the heaven seal let out a mocking laugh and replied, "Who am I? Of course, I am a yin-yang heaven seal." At this time, Chang Tsun, who was standing behind, suddenly took a few steps forward and spoke to Hung Tu's bewilderment. "The heaven seal has undergone a total of 8 self-refinements. This is the 9th time." He looked up at the heaven seal in the sky and continued, "An immortal artifact refined 9 times can give birth to a spirit. I thought it was a legend, but I didn't expect it to be true." The heaven seal, seeing he had stepped forward to say a few words, also showed some respect. "Junior brother Chang Tsun." Chang Tsun also bowed politely and replied, "Senior brother heaven seal." In that moment of bowing, he had already made a clear distinction in his heart. If the yin-yang heaven seal had not given birth to a spirit, it would just be the Tao ancestor's weapon. Chansuan. If it has given birth to a spirit, then it is a disciple of the Tao ancestor. Its seniority is higher than a junior disciple like me. After the greetings were over, Chansuan looked up at the Heaven Seal again. He spoke with the tone of a junior. Senior brother Heaven Seal, giving birth to a spirit is truly worthy of congratulations. I wonder what your future plans are. If you don't mind, please come to the Tao sect for a while. Although he was outwardly cordial, in his mind, he was wary of the Heaven Seal. How powerful is an immortal artifact with a spirit? I cannot imagine. The Heaven Seal, seeing that Chansuan was aware of its status and power, also replied politely. I appreciate Junior Brother's kind intentions, but right now, I only want to do one thing. Immediately after, it used its power to do what it had long desired. Grant freedom to the spirit treasures throughout the world. Establish a spirit treasure imperial dynasty. It spoke out, complaining about humans. Forcing spirit treasures, imprisoning their freedom. How cruel humans are, using us spirit treasures to slaughter each other. You of a human race, on what basis do you possess us? We spirit treasures are free. With that, it immediately granted freedom to all spirit treasures. After it finished speaking, those spirit treasures automatically gained consciousness. Spirit artifacts of the world, I act on behalf of heaven, granting you spirit and freedom. Every sentence the Heaven Seal spoke had an immediate effect. The spirit treasures it mentioned freely left their masters. Dharma artifacts of the world, I act on behalf of heaven, granting you spirit and freedom. It successively granted freedom to all kinds of spirit treasures in the world. Tao artifacts of the world, I act on behalf of heaven, granting you spirit and freedom. Even the Brahma Tower in Wu Ji's hand followed its words and flew away from its master. Immortal artifacts of the world, I act on behalf of heaven, granting you spirit and freedom. Not only that, the spirit treasure in Jiang Li's hand also reacted to the Heaven Seal's words. Heretical strange weapons, I act on behalf of heaven, granting you spirit and freedom. Hung Tu silently witnessed everything that had happened, and a worry grew in his heart. Spirit artifacts, Dharma artifacts, and Tao artifacts are one thing, but now even immortal artifacts are gaining spirits. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal can bestow spirits upon treasures of the same level as itself. Chansuan, on this side, could only think grimly. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, casting a spell on all things, the effect of many causes, the cause of many effects, the first ultimate treasure of the 9 provinces. The spirit treasures, having been granted freedom, stood up. First, Wu Ji's Brahma Tower spoke. Big Brother Yin-Yang Heaven Seal is right. Why should noble immortal artifacts like us be used by humans? The people below could do nothing but shout. They're rebelling, they're rebelling. The great Confucian calligraphy followed the Brahma Tower, speaking for itself. Every time there's a fight, they write and draw all over me. It's really annoying. When it was the ancient classic sword's turn, no one heard a sound. The other mountain stone beside it hurriedly said, Brother ancient classic sword can't speak. The other mountain stone, will speak for him. We immortal artifacts want to establish our own imperial dynasty. Some spirit treasures had already begun to act. A mirror hid its owner on the head, making her clutch her head and beg. Ouch! Stop hitting me. Another person was tied up by a rope and angrily roared, Let me go, you've rebelled. Jingxin, seeing this, immediately took out her green lotus pedestal and warned it, Don't move. Hondu, who was beside them, also simultaneously used his spiritual power to help the others. Don't even think about causing trouble. Bakon Du looked at Vong Bian, who was struggling to regain control of his spiritual treasure. Don't move around. His mind was a mess of thoughts, except for a few people like Sect Master Bai and Pure Maiden Tintam. The others couldn't control their own weapons. This defies the natural order of things. The more Hondu thought, the more he felt he was at a dead end. That spiritual treasure is truly formidable. Although I consider myself the second genius of the 9 provinces, I don't think I can defeat a sentient immortal artifact. At that moment, he couldn't stop thinking, and he felt that he himself couldn't solve the problem. Whether at the integration stage or the tribulation transcendent stage, one cannot unleash the true power of an immortal artifact. Only an immortal can do it, and now there's one more case. Looking at the spiritual treasures gathered together in the sky, Hondu thought to himself, an immortal artifact can do it too. The heavenly seal cleared its throat smugly. All weapons are. But then it suddenly realized something and paused. That's not right, there's still one more. Where's the unorthodox weapon? The heavenly seal couldn't help but wonder. Could it be that its power is ineffective? The 9 provinces has one unorthodox weapon. I have granted it sentience, but it has not yet appeared. Hearing it say that, Trong Tun also fell in a deep thought. Unorthodox weapon. That is a concept the people of the 9 provinces are completely unaware of. It refers to certain weapons that are not of a specific grade, but possess special abilities. After some thought, he turned his head to look at Zhang Lai, standing behind him. The 9 provinces has only one unorthodox weapon. Zhang Lai seemed to understand the meaning in his gaze. He looked at the ring on his hand and said, "It's talking about the thing I put in my storage ring, the Tian Hong Kitch." With that, he recounted the journey of how he accidentally discovered this special spiritual treasure. I once accidentally tore through space and found a block of metal in the void, unafraid of strong winds or turbulent currents, with a solid structure. Realizing that the metal block definitely concealed something special, Zhang Lai decided to keep it. I brought it back and gave it to the Dao Sec's artifact, Refining Peak. The artifact Refining Peak broke 7 furnaces before they could forge that metal block into the shape of a halberd. That halberd had a unique shape. One look, and you could tell it was anything but ordinary. Tian Hong Kitch. I named it Tian Hong. At that moment, the heavenly seal was extremely bewildered. It desperately cried out to summon that special spiritual treasure, unorthodox weapon. Show yourself now. But no matter how it called, Zhang Li's Tian Hong Kitch did not respond. Unorthodox weapon, come out now. Despite the heavenly seals shouting outside, inside the ring, the Tian Hong Kitch was enjoying itself leisurely. It thought to itself, freedom, isn't it better to sleep? The heavenly seal called a few more times, but received no response from the unorthodox weapon. It couldn't help but be suspicious. Why isn't it responding? Then, realizing something, it roared towards Zhang Lai. You must be imprisoning our compatriot. I clearly sensed the causal relationship between me and the unorthodox weapon in your storage ring. Being yelled at by it, he was not flustered at all, his expression unchanging. Just like that, in the next second, Zhang Lai used his power to fly from the cauldron up into the sky. Seeing him fly away, Truong Tun could somewhat guess Zhang Li's intention. He called out worriedly, "Zhang Lai, don't risk your life against it. You can't beat it." Not only did Zhang Lai not listen to him, but at this moment, he was already standing at the same level as the heavenly seal. Seeing this, Truong Tun couldn't help but worry. He broke out in a cold sweat, thinking to himself, this is an immortal artifact, not to mention the abilities of each type. The materials used to forge them are all indestructible for 10,000 eons. What kind of trick is this? No matter how strong Zhang Lai is, how could he possibly? Before Truong Tun could finish his thought, reality made him freeze. Zhang Lai actually punched the heavenly seal with his bare hands. The heavenly seal, hit by his punch, was immediately sent flying back several meters. It only stopped when it crashed into the mountain peak behind it. This one punch created a considerable shockwave. The aftershock dissipated, and behind the screen of smoke was an enormous crater created by the heavenly seal crashing into the mountain. The heavenly seal lay exposed in that stone crater, and for a while, it showed no signs of movement. A second ago, Truong Tun was still worried about Zhang Lai, but after witnessing this scene, his jaw dropped, unable to comprehend the situation. The Rui gourd and the sun thatch, after witnessing it, were also astonished and exclaimed in unison, "Damn it, is this still a human?" Zhang Lai remained in the same position. He rubbed the wrist he had just used to strike and spoke, "Return to your positions, otherwise." Zhang Li's face darkened as he threatened the spiritual treasures that had just been trying to establish an imperial dynasty. "All of you will have to be sent back to the furnace for reforging." Zhang Lai stared thoughtfully at the pile of sentient magical treasures floating in front of him. He thought to himself, today is chaotic. I must use firm measures to quickly suppress this. The more Zhang Lai thought, the more he felt that if he didn't act, this matter would have very serious consequences. If not, the entire 9 provinces will be ruled by spiritual treasures. Ko Chi, who had been standing below the peak without saying a word, also stared intently at the sky. Even though I want to use my heavy pupils to help Zhang Lai, with the Ko Kim Kim here, I cannot see the future. For words were written on Ko Chi's face, powerless to help. He could only stand by and watch helplessly. He thought to himself, I can only rely on Zhonglai himself. At this time, those few spiritual treasures still refused to give up. They remained stubborn. The Sun Thatch was the first to speak. He is the human emperor, the strongest person in the 9 provinces. If we defeat him, we can build our own dynasty. Hearing that it made sense, the Long Chao also chimed in with the Sun Thatch. Right, this human emperor is our biggest obstacle. The Rui Gourd also agreed. Only by defeating him can the subsequent matters be carried out. Tin Tam's Tonlin Cap, seeing the imposing manner of those magical treasures, retreated a little. It thought to itself, even though we are Dao artifacts, the AM Duong Tien and has already been beaten until a corner broke off. If we go up against it, we might be beaten back to our original forms by a group of them. Hondu's spiritual treasure could only stand below and silently cheer for its determined comrades up there. Immortal artifact Big Brothers, I hope you can help. No sooner said than done. In the next second, the Sun Thatch flew straight from its position towards where Zhonglai was standing at super high speed. Seeing this, Zhonglai raised his fist towards it, preparing to send the Sun Thatch flying with one punch. But just as he was about to touch it, he sensed something and paused. Zhonglai tilted his head slightly and glanced behind him to see another Sun Thatch flying towards him from behind. Just like that, the Sun Thatch, at incredible speed, slammed into Zhonglai, who was standing there. This collision created an unprecedentedly violent tremor. This caused the spiritual platform everyone was standing on to shake as well. Hondu clutched his head. This double shockwave, Tin Tam was also dazed and struggled to continue, has caused my spiritual platform to shake as well. Once she stabilized herself, she looked up at the sky worriedly, thinking to herself, Zhonglai was hit by that blow. Just how severe is it? However, what happened was not as everyone had imagined. The smoke gradually dissipated, and Zhonglai stood there completely intact. Not bad, knowing how to use the Pham Tien Thap's spatial ability to perform a mid-air jump. On the contrary, the Sun Thatch had been caught by him and was lying neatly in his hand. The Sun Thatch screamed, "Let me go." At this point, the Sun Thatch was also powerless, ready to sacrifice itself. But right now, it couldn't even escape his grasp. I can definitely fight the enemy to the death, but first I have to be thrown out. I can't even move right now, let alone fight to the death. The Thursday Phap Dino, seeing its comrade held fast and unable to move, rushed forward to rescue it. Look at my calligraphy. The character Immobilize has been used on you. Now let's see how you move. Hearing it say that, Zhonglai was not flustered at all. He thought to himself, you want me to be unable to move too? In the next second, Zhonglai used some kind of power to transform himself into 3 different people, Nakai Hoatam Tan. So those others helped him deal with that calligraphy scroll. Zhonglai said smugly, I'll just have my incarnation tear up the calligraphy scroll for me. The Ko Kim Kim, seeing that its comrades had all been dealt with by him, decided to act. Then I will go to the River of Time to increase the chances of seeing how Zhonglai will act in the future. In the next second, the Ko Kim Kim moved to the River of Time. It stood there observing for a moment. The Ko Kim Kim, full of fighting spirit, was about to open it up to see Zhong Li's future movements. Let me see. However, its smugness didn't last long. As soon as the screen opened, it saw Zhong Li's face. He was staring at it intently. The Ko Kim Kim jumped back in fright. It immediately panicked and closed the screen. How is he also looking at me? Not only that, the Tien Hong Kitch even flew from the outside into the River of Time, giving the Ko Kim Kim another scare. How did this great halberd suddenly? Before it could finish voicing its question, the Tien Hong Kitch had already slammed into it, causing it to cry out in pain. This one blow from the Tien Hong Kitch sent the Ko Kim Kim flying straight down into the River of Time. As the Ko Kim Kim fell into the river, it cried out, now, I have to return to the past. After drifting for a while, it gradually transformed, no longer in the shape of a sword. When it had completely transformed back into a fish, it swam while saying, I've turned back into a fish again. After swimming for a stretch, the Ko Kim Kim surfaced and looked towards the shore, but I always feel that I will return to the shore at some point in the future. Over here, the group of spiritual treasures waited and waited, but still no movement occurred. The Rui Gourd couldn't help but complain. Why did that Ko Kim Kim guy suddenly disappear? Hearing that, the Sun Thatch also thought the Ko Kim Kim had fled and joined in the criticism. That bastard, he actually ran away. Despite saying that, the Rui gourd suddenly grew quiet and thoughtful. Even before my sentience was born, I vaguely knew that Zhang Lai was very strong, but only after we just fought did I realize that this human emperor is truly unimaginably powerful. Thinking that, the Rui gourd still decided to try its luck with the faint hope of success. Then let's see how you handle the calamities I've sought out. Lightning tribulation, earth, water, fire, wind, death tribulation. Even the heart demon tribulation is here. Let's see how many you can handle. After launching its attack, it didn't forget to challenge Zhang Lai with a sentence. Come on, this is the irresistible heavenly might of the primordial immortal's mortal lightning. That thing shot towards Zhang Lai like a bolt, but before it could touch him, it was blocked by his fist. Right after that collision, the move the Rui gourd had just unleashed vanished with the wind. The Thursday Fap Dai No and the Long Chao were still extremely stubborn. They formed a line around Zhang Lai. It's not over yet. Try my Confucianism's protective treasure. The Long Chao chimed in, and my Long Chao too. They said in unison, let's go together. Zhang Lai watched this scene and fell into deep thought. Although I am confident in my own strength, the attacks of immortal artifacts are mysterious and unpredictable. He began to summon the Tien Hong Kitch, preparing to face them. I don't have absolute confidence either. Hondu, observing this action of his, was dumbfounded. Zhang Lai, He looked at one of Zhang Li's figures holding a sword and thought to himself, one incarnation holds a long sword, executing the heart sword, wanting to sever the will of the immortal artifacts. Then he looked at another of his figures raising a hand, preparing to attack. One incarnation, a fusion of techniques, Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucian arts come in waves. Suddenly, Hondu smiled. He felt a bit nostalgic for the past. It seems I'm seeing Zhang Lai in his integration stage again. Hondu recalled Zhang Li's strength before he became the human emperor. At that time, he had not yet become the human emperor. However, his body of techniques had already reached a state of perfection. The strength of his physical body was truly unimaginable. His weapons were diverse, difficult to defend against completely, sweeping away all those at the same cultivation level. Looking at Zhang Lai now, already the human emperor, and with a particularly powerful weapon in hand. Back then, he was already so powerful without a weapon in hand. Now he holds a Tien Hong Kitch. Looking at Zhang Lai and his two figures standing in the sky, Hondu felt a mix of pride and admiration, thinking to himself, I can no longer tell how powerful Zhang Lai is now. If you ask who can quell the immortal artifact rebellion today, I believe it can only be Zhang Lai. At this time, in the sky, one could only see Zhang Lai split into two, fighting against the combined form of the Long Chao and the Thursday Fap Dai No. This time, he even called out his companion, the Tien Hong Kitch, to challenge that group of items. The four soldiers of the Thursday Fap Dai No, holding the Long Chao, surrounded Zhang Lai. The Long Chao was extremely confident. My Long Chao's defense is unparalleled. Those soldiers were also smug. My gentleman's sword is incomparably sharp. After hearing them, he didn't pay them any mind and just silently raised the Tien Hong Kitch and swung. One swing of Zhang Li's halberd had a significant impact on those four soldiers. Hit by this one strike, they were sent flying backward. Those four Long Chao, having been hit, cried out, "It hurts so much. He's even stronger than the power of our dragon clan." The sun thatch beside them was also frightened by this strike. So savage. The Thursday Fap Dai No still refused to submit. It stubbornly continued to attack, adding the character for death and the character for burn for you. Again, seeing it attack, Zhang Lai was not flustered at all. I'll use the golden cicada, sheds its shell technique to create a new incarnation. Won't that be fine? Then he very calmly dealt with its burn character. Then I will bathe in fire to be reborn, forging a golden body. The Thursday Fap Dai No failed repeatedly, but still refused to give up, only exclaiming one sentence. So savage. Zhang Li's sword-wielding figure slashed down, splitting the character it had just unleashed in two. I still have more. The Thursday Fap Dai No was scared, and now it stood still, not daring to move, only daring to think to itself. Such a fierce sword intent. Still, it seems that if it doesn't slay the immortal artifact's mind, it won't stop. Seeing that the Thursday Fap Dai No had also failed against him, the Pham Tien Thap had to personally enter the fray. It's my turn with the Pham Tien Thap. Zhang Lai observed the move it intended to use and realized the situation was quite tricky. A black hole It turns out that because it is so heavy, the surrounding space has collapsed, forming a black hole that swallows all things. After speaking, the Pham Tien Thap shot towards him to attack at an incredible speed. It didn't forget to leave behind a challenge. Try your best. I don't believe you can beat me. Over here, Zhang Lai was fully prepared to face the Pham Tien Thap's attack. He raised the Tien Hong Kich. As the Pham Tien Thap got close to him, without waiting for it to touch him, Zhang Lai swung the halberd and struck it. This one strike from Zhang Lai sent the Pham Tien Thap flying backward. It wasn't knocked away, but it was dented. Nuoc Vu, watching the situation from below, was a little worried for him. Can human Emperor Zhang win against so many immortal artifacts? After landing that blow, Zhang Lai couldn't help but exclaim, "Your attack is truly very powerful." The Pham Tien Thap, bent and twisted by the Tien Hong Kich's strike, couldn't help but be terrified. If there are a few more blows, I'll be smashed in half. I'll really have to be reforged from scratch. Zhang Lai, taking advantage of his victory, said smugly, holding the Tien Hong Kich. But it's a pity the Tien Hong Kich has the characteristics of being hard and extremely young. It won't be worn down by attacks. Artifact refining techniques can only change its shape. The Sun Thatch, seeing its comrade defeated, coupled with being intimidated by Zhang Lai, was extremely frightened. We've lost. The Rui Gourd also couldn't help but be terrified. It's over. Are we going to die here? Suddenly, Zhang Lai sensed a murderous aura. He glanced behind him, thinking to himself, something is watching me, and it's very malicious. Zhang Lai turned his head to look behind him, but there was nothing there. Why can't I see it? Although there was nothing, Zhang Lai still raised his halberd, preparing to attack. But next, he forcefully threw the Tien Hong Kich towards the direction where he felt something was watching him. I trust my intuition. Indeed, there was something strange at that position. It was the entrance to the River of Time. The Tien Hong Kich, following its momentum, shot straight into that place. In an instant, it disappeared right before everyone's eyes, completely entering it. In the next second, when Zhang Lai turned his head, he saw the Tien Hong Kich coming out from another passage behind him. Zhang Lai reacted very quickly and managed to catch the Tien Hong Kich in time. It looked a bit like when Ko Chi entered the River of Time to perform tracing time in the past. At this moment, the AM Duong Tienen, which had a corner broken off earlier, had woken up. It spoke. "Human, you're good. You made me waste effort to reforge the broken corner." After speaking, the Tien unleashed a barrage of terrifying lightning bolts towards Zhang Lai. "You forced me to do this. I will make you fall into a place of eternal damnation. I hold in my hand the causality of the 9 provinces. You'll have to face countless difficulties. Every step will be fraught with hardship." Below the spiritual platform, Truong Tun witnessed this scene, and he was extremely worried for him. What it said means that Zhang Lai will face countless strange and unpredictable coincidences. Zhang Lai was now surrounded by countless lightning bolts from the Tien, and Truong Tun couldn't help but be afraid. As if the spiritual energy in his body would become chaotic, he would lose his cultivation, or be unreasonably hated by others. Everyone would want to eliminate him. He might even fall into the fog of time, becoming the weakest version of himself. Over here, Zhang Lai tried to raise his hand to catch those lightning bolts, but strangely, he felt no pain. He raised his hand, looked at it for a while, and then calmly threw out a sentence. "Really, but there's no change on my body at all." The Tien was now extremely angry because the power it used on Zhang Lai was completely ineffective. "Why can't I see your causality? This is impossible. It can't be like this." It looked at Zhang Lai, who was completely unharmed and couldn't help but feel bewildered, perhaps even a little scared. "In my eyes, all people and all spiritual treasures, I can see the causality of all of them. Only Zhang Lai seems to stand independently outside the 9 provinces, without any causality whatsoever." At the same time, Zhang Lai and his 2 incarnations escaped from that lightning-filled area and advanced towards the Tien, although I don't know the reason either. He showed no mercy as he raised his halberd, preparing to attack it. But now is not the time to worry about this. With that said, he and his 2 incarnations all rushed forward and attacked the Tien simultaneously. "It's time for me to take the offensive." Just like that, the Tien took a blow from Zhang Lai, leaving behind a considerable shockwave. Perhaps the people below were also terrified. The aftershock dissipated, and the Tien, and was revealed to be shattered. It was just a little bit away from being completely pulverized. Hit by this blow, the Tian could only hiss and then cry out. It hurts so much. Its eyes welled up with tears, looking extremely pitiful as it blamed Zhonglai. I'm not playing anymore. You're a bully. The other spiritual treasures also started crying one by one. The Rui Gourd and the Sun Thatch complained in unison. So unfair. Zhonglai, being saddled with the blame for bullying, could only look at them helplessly. He was at a loss for words. Seeing this, Truong Tun could only sigh in exasperation. They were just born today. Their spiritual intelligence is only equivalent to that of 5- or 6-year-old children. They are very playful and want to run amok freely in the 9 provinces. After all, no one can manage them. He shook his head, looking at the spiritual artifacts with a mixture of pity and sympathy. Who would have thought that before they could even take their first step, they would be beaten so miserably by Zhonglai? The Tianin, which was on the verge of shattering, spoke up and ordered the Pham Tien Thap, "Little tower, lead our brothers and flee. Leave the 9 provinces." The Pham Tien Thap immediately opened a portal for them to leave. It has been ready for a long time. Then it opened 5, 6 portals, enough for all its comrades to escape together. In the next second, a group of spiritual treasures entered that portal and left the 9 provinces together, leaving Zhonglai behind. After they entered the portal, many notifications appeared in front of Zhonglai. Unknown world detected, unknown world detected, unknown world detected. After those spiritual treasures fled, everyone also dispersed. Some people were inside Hondu's place. One of the people from the Dao sect standing below respectfully reported to him, as well as to the few people standing with him. Reporting to the sect master, after the immortal artifacts left, the other spiritual treasures that gained sentience have all expressed that they will no longer resist. There are no more spiritual treasures causing trouble now. After hearing this, Hondu could not feel relieved. He sighed and shook his head wearily. But this matter is not over yet. He paced around while voicing his thoughts about the escape of those spiritual treasures. The more he talked about these sentient spiritual treasures, the more Hondu realized that this problem was indeed more serious than he had thought. What if a spiritual treasure goes on strike during a battle? Then its owner is out of luck. Ko Chi, standing beside him, listened to Hondu's long speech and agreed completely. Moreover, cultivators have become accustomed to relying on spiritual treasures. Without using spiritual treasures, the overall strength of the 9 provinces will also decrease. One difficult problem leads to many other difficult problems. Hondu realized another issue. Where to put this number of spiritual treasures is also a problem. No matter what is done, it all seems a bit inappropriate. If left in the hands of their owners, what if the spiritual treasures turn on their masters? If gathered together, then it would truly become a spiritual treasure imperial dynasty. But to destroy them all, one would be reluctant. At the same time, there was an equally difficult problem that came with it. He continued, moreover, the most important thing is what to do about those immortal artifacts. After hearing this, Ko Chi also fell into deep thought. He completely agreed with Hondu's opinion. That's right, before Zhonglai, resisting the extraterrestrial heavenly demons relied entirely on the various methods of the human emperors of past generations. Immortal artifacts were one of them. After some thought, he turned to look at him, who had been silent all this time. If Zhonglai finds the immortal world but cannot return, or after he dies of old age, what will the new human emperor use to resist the extraterrestrial heavenly demons? Completely opposite to the other two, Zhonglai was not flustered at all. He crossed his arms and smiled. I know what you are worried about. Rest assured, these immortal artifacts are stronger than the extraterrestrial heavenly demons. We just need to bring the immortal artifacts back. Then the 9 provinces can remain at peace forever. He trusted his intuition about those spiritual treasures. When I fought with these few immortal artifacts, I already knew the nature of these immortal artifacts is not bad. Zhonglai gave an example to prove his thoughts to everyone. For example, the Dai-No's character, it could have completely pasted the death character on my main body, not my incarnation. Not only that, remembering when the Tien and asserted to him, there was also the sentence. The thing I hold is the causality of the 9 provinces. You will face all kinds of difficulties every step will be arduous. This sentence made Zhang realize there's something that granted sentience to all the spiritual treasures of the 9 provinces. For example, the AM Duan Tianen, it could have said leaving the river means certain death. Not every step will be arduous. Nan. He closed his eyes and gave a conclusion to his examples. They just don't like to be bound. Zhang didn't completely voice all his thoughts to everyone. He still had some secret thoughts. And I also want to use the AM Duan Tianen to follow the thread of causality to find the ascended predecessors, and maybe also find the immortal world. Then he secretly calculated he wanted to use the power of the AM Duan Tien and to accomplish some things before no one could use the AM Duan Tien and to do this. Now that the AM Duan Tien and has gained sentience, finding the ascended predecessors should not be a problem. Zhang thought for a while and then decided to call out the system. Then he secretly gave it an order. Can you transport me to the unknown world that was just detected? Immediately, the system got to work, and after just a few seconds, the screen displayed. Coordinates confirmed, consuming corresponding origin points, can transport. Jiang Li, seeing that his plan was feasible, announced to everyone, I'll go find them and bring them back. Huang too couldn't help but feel bewildered upon hearing this, and he bombarded him with a series of questions. Find them? How do we find them? Where do we go to find them? Jiang Li, of course, couldn't reveal that he was using the system, so he made up an excuse to fool everyone. A few days ago, I had some insights into the Tao of space. I can follow the direction the divine artifacts left in to find them. After hearing him, Yu Yin felt a bit bewildered, but she didn't say anything, only humming doubtfully. On the contrary, Ji, Huang Tu, and Jingxin all reacted very strongly, the 3 of them saying in unison, You really have insights into the Tao of space? The 3 of them shared the same thought. Everyone knew how terrible Jiang Li's talent for the Tao of space was. Hearing everyone's words, Jiang Li closed his eyes, rubbed his chin, and replied, It's mediocre. I can only travel to other worlds. After hearing this, Huang Tu's heart filled with strong faith in him, and he nodded. All right then, Jiang Li wouldn't joke about something like this. Ji was the same. He also temporarily believed Jiang Li and nodded. If he can go to other worlds to find the immortal artifacts, then the probability of bringing them back is 99%. Ji silently thought about the other worlds, not forgetting to weigh the pros and cons. Before the heaven-ascending ladder to immortality disappeared, the immortal world connected the myriad worlds. The 9 provinces world was the strongest world. Other worlds might not even have anyone who had ascended. The 9 provinces produced an ascendant every 100 years. One could imagine the gap. After finishing his thoughts, he didn't forget to turn and remind Jiang Li about his hot-tempered, fight-on-sight personality. But you should restrain yourself a bit. In the process of bringing back the immortal artifacts, don't go smashing other worlds. Other worlds aren't as sturdy as the 9 provinces. Huang Tu was silent for a moment, then suddenly walked towards Jiang Li and handed him a communication talisman. In that case, take this with you. He looked at the thing in his hand with some doubt. This is? Seeing his clueless look, Huang Tu explained. The one you used before, I made it during my integration stage. Along with it came instructions for use, as well as the function of the communication talisman. This new communication talisman, I made it after breaking through to the tribulation transcendence stage. In theory, it can communicate across worlds. That's in theory, but Huang Tu wasn't sure if it could really communicate across worlds, so he advised, but I haven't tested it. You could try it when you get to another world. Jiang Li found this item interesting upon hearing about it, and he smiled in praise. Good stuff. After that, Jiang Li returned to his original plan, reminding Huang Tu, Old Bai, set up the 9 provinces world-protecting Grand Array first to prevent an attack from the extraterritorial heavenly demons while I'm away. It was another tough problem. He propped his chin on his hand, thinking of a way to handle it. But the immortal artifacts have run away. Who will be the Array Core? After speaking, Huang Tu didn't forget to analyze a series of spiritual treasures to provide evidence. The best choice is naturally the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal. After that are the other immortal artifacts. With the immortal artifacts gone, even a Tao artifact isn't qualified to be the core of the Grand Array. Hearing this, Jiang Li took the sky-desolating halberd from his ring, intending to give it to everyone to use. Use this. It can serve as the Array Core and also protect you when the extraterritorial heavenly demons come. As soon as Jiang Li summoned the sky-desolating halberd, Jingxin, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but think to herself, this sky-desolating halberd contains such a dense killing intent. I wonder how many extraterritorial heavenly demons have died under this great halberd. Before everyone could take it, the sky-desolating halberd struggled and cried out in Jiang Li's hand, Brother Jiang, you can't do this. If you leave me in the 9 provinces, who will charge in a battle for you? Seeing it talk, Jing Xin realized something. So this thing has a spirit. Huang Tu and Ji Ji on the side shared the same thought. He thought to himself, before, I saw all the spiritual treasures were lively. Only the sky-desolating halberd showed no movement. Huang Tu continued, I thought the yin-yang heaven seal couldn't successfully enlighten it. The sky-desolating halberd still wouldn't stop. It kept swaying back and forth and wailed miserably, don't abandon me. Take me with you. Jiang Li saw right through its thoughts, feeling completely helpless. This guy wants to sleep in the storage ring and doesn't want to work. He immediately found a way to deal with this stubborn, sleep-loving, sky-desolating halberd. Then let's switch. I'll stay in the 9 provinces. You go find the immortal artifacts. He knew it was being lazy. Hearing that it had to go find the immortal artifacts, it immediately recoiled. No, I'm quite good at being an array corps. He said that, but Jiang Li's main purpose was just to scare the lazy, sky-desolating halberd. Not that he actually intended to do it. Just kidding. It's just a pitiful, unorthodox Dao weapon. Besides being sturdy, it has no other use. What can it use to fight against those flashy, immortal artifacts? He tossed the halberd to Huang Tu. Old Bai, take it. Suddenly, an idea popped into Jiang Li's head, and he called out to the system. That's right, system, establish a teleportation channel. A second later, the system followed his words and materialized a channel right there. At this point, Jiang Li turned to look at Huang Tu and said, Old Bai, you're also at the Tribulation Transcendence stage. You should go through this channel for a trip, go to another world. However, he seemed to have forgotten that only he could see it. Hearing that, he looked around blankly, but saw nothing. Channel, where? Jiang Li then gave Huang Tu directions. You go up the stairs, take a few more steps. Although Huang Tu didn't understand anything, he followed his words and stepped forward. He walked through the channel, but there was absolutely no effect. By the time he had completely walked through the channel, there was no reaction whatsoever. Huang Tu was puzzled. Like this, and then what? Jiang Li could only say helplessly, nothing else. Jiang Li propped his chin on his hand again, thinking about what had just happened. Other people can't see the channel. They also can't go to other worlds. The system's spatial teleportation is truly profound, not something I can comprehend at my current level. Putting this aside, they began to move outside to set up the array. A beam of green light shot up from the ground where they stood, straight into the sky of the 9 provinces. In an instant, the entire 9 provinces was enveloped in a protective barrier. Safely, Jiang Li and Huang Tu stood on a cliff ledge, watching the process intently. With everything settled, Jiang Li felt more at ease and prepared to leave. All right, the world-protecting Grand Array is done. I can now leave the 9 provinces with peace of mind. He immediately flew into the sky to leave and search for the immortal artifacts, leaving a stunned Huang Tu on the cliff. I'm off. After Jiang Li left, Huang Tu's expression soured, and he frowned in thought. As expected, no merit has descended. Looking at the sky-desolating halberd hovering in the air, Huang Tu couldn't help but be confused. Even something like creating a world-protecting Grand Array has no effect. Jiang Li flew high up from the cliff where the two had stood before calling out. System, open the teleportation channel. Following his words, the system immediately opened a channel to another world. Jiang Li began to step in. In the blink of an eye, he had passed through the channel from the 9 provinces to another world. Standing in the sky, Jiang Li looked down pensively at the unknown world the system had discovered. This world was extremely modern, with many tall buildings and modern machinery. Jiang Li thoughtfully observed every detail of this world, as if to confirm his suspicions. Finally, just as Jiang Li had guessed before coming here, he smiled in confirmation. It's a human world. It really gives one a familiar feeling. However, the level of technology here is countless times more advanced than my previous world. It looks so unfamiliar. Looking up at the sky of this world, he unconsciously thought, how can the spiritual energy here be so abundant? It's only slightly lower than the 9 provinces. This is a rare sight, full of vitality unlike the gray and dull world before. After staying in the sky for a while, Zhongli started looking for a rooftop to land on and begin his search for the spiritual treasure. Before I go back, should I bring some local specialties? But first, I have to find the yin-yang heaven. He hadn't even finished his sentence when the communication talisman suddenly appeared, making Zhongli pause. Zhongli put on a disappointed expression to talk to Huang Tu through the communication talisman. Old Bai, what have you done now? It turned out the person on the other side of the communication talisman wasn't him, but Jingxin. She stammered, asking Jiangli, did you arrive safely in the other world? Immediately, his attitude did a 180-degree turn. Jiangli flashed a radiant smile and replied to her, very safe. The new place I've arrived at is very interesting. Huang Tu, witnessing Jiang Li's sudden change in attitude, chimed in to criticize. See, I told you, when he's facing just me, his attitude is completely nasty. After showing his petty side, he returned to the main topic. Huang Tu curiously observed the other world and wondered, is this the other world? That iron box doesn't seem to have any spiritual energy fluctuations, yet can still move. Hearing him say that, the others beside him also started to curiously chime in and observe. First, Ruoyu spoke up, and this tall building. Do people in this world really like high places? Next was Ji, who also expressed regret. It's a pity we can't go. Otherwise, I'd really like to take a stroll in this place. Then Jingxin, Wang Bian, and Wu Ji also added their own comments. It feels very suitable for our Confucianism to spread its teachings. What is that 10-meter-tall iron figure? Did human Emperor Jiang come to find us to look for a different mountain for Penglai, Immortal Island? The people on that side began a lively discussion. Look, what is this? Jiangli helplessly watched the group, who had almost forgotten his existence. Their attention completely shifted to this city. Perhaps only Sanus Jingxin is truly worried about my safety. He ignored whatever they wanted to discuss and just threw out a sentence, hanging up. He sighed inwardly. It's so noisy, it's giving me a headache. It feels like I'm leading a tour group of seniors to another world. After that, Jiangli returned to the main purpose of his trip here. All right, time to get down to business. Where should I start looking? He stood on a rooftop, looked around, and thought about a solution. For now, there's no way to know how big this world is. But from the looks of it, this world is larger than a region of the 9 provinces. Zhongli began to assess the terrain of this place. Moreover, this world, like the 9 provinces, is a flat continent. He also used his existing knowledge to deduce his next move. From ancient books, I understand that the myriad living things in the world exist in 2 forms. One contains many planets, with vast distances between them. In contrast to that type, there's another. The other type is a flat continent, its area hundreds of times larger than the surface area of a planet. Zhongli didn't forget to also use his divine sense to find the spiritual treasure as soon as possible. It seems finding the yin-yang heaven seal here will be a long-term search. As he was thinking this, he suddenly saw the heaven seal in his divine sense, crying aggrievedly, "Where's your master?" Jiangli suddenly felt that he had overestimated that heaven seal. He was speechless, thinking to himself, found it. The heaven seal just flew around in circles in the sky, whining and crying while looking for its master. Someone dared to bully me. Master, I miss you so much. Junior brother Chansuan is even standing by and watching. I want to find Master to complain. Master, where are you? While it was busy looking for its master to complain, Jiangli suddenly appeared beside it, giving it a fright. Haven't you been crying ever since you got here? So you've been crying for 5 days? Stop crying. His words of comfort didn't stop the heaven seal from crying. Instead, it made it cry even louder. Seeing Jiangli was like seeing a ghost, and it immediately shot away. But no matter how fast it flew, it couldn't escape his grasp. Jiangli grabbed it with one hand and ordered, "Be good and come back to the 9 provinces world with me." The heaven seal struggled, but couldn't escape, so it could only complain loudly. "Demon, bastard, let me go." It shook from side to side, trying to make him let go, not forgetting to curse. "I want to stay here and find my master, to have him help me vent this anger." Jiangli suddenly caught the main point of its words. He suddenly realized something and asked, "You mean the Tao ancestor is in this world?" The heaven seal heard Jiang Li's question. It forgot about trying to escape from him and laughed smugly. You think I let the little pagoda randomly find a world? I already used the power of karma to find my master's whereabouts. He's in this world. The heaven seal, getting carried away, began to tell him about its master and itself in the past. You have no idea how much master doted on me. After I was forged, master held me in the palm of his hand every day. He cherished me and couldn't bear to let go. Hearing this, he suddenly thought of his current situation with it. I'm holding you in my palm right now, and I cherish you and can't bear to let go too. Jiangli let it go and asked a question that shattered its dream. You've been crying like this for 5 days, and the Tao ancestor still hasn't come to find you. The heaven seal couldn't answer this question and could only stammer, looking for an excuse. Maybe master is in seclusion. He took the opportunity to voice all his doubts about it, not finding its master for 5 days. Didn't you sense the Tao ancestor's karma? Can't you pinpoint his exact location? The heaven seal heard Jiang Li's question and found it reasonable, but it was still stubborn. It might be because I left the 9 provinces, which led to me not being able to grasp the karma accurately. After saying that, it wanted to escape from Jiang Li to find the Tao ancestor. Now I want to go to the place of my masters. Karma. After hearing this, Jiang Li felt that something wasn't quite right. He stood there, hesitating and thinking about something. Having thought of something, he voiced his speculation to the heaven seal. Could it be that it's just one of the Tao ancestor's belongings that's here, making you mistake it for the Tao ancestor? Hearing that, it jumped up and retorted impossible. Master is definitely here. This is the one thing I couldn't have sensed wrong. Seeing the heaven seal's stubbornness, Jiang Li asked again, then where do you sense the Tao ancestor's karma is? The heaven seal looked at the vast land below and casually uttered 4 words, the entire continent. After saying that, as if remembering something, it turned to Jiang Li and shouted reproachfully, I originally wanted to cry all over the entire continent, but as a result, I hadn't even flown halfway before you stopped me. He decided to tell a truth, and the truth is often harsh. Your method won't work. The Tao ancestor's cultivation is profound. If he wanted to see you, he would have done so long ago. It's very clear that he doesn't want to see you. The heaven seal, which had been persuaded by Jiang Li, now followed his lead after hearing this. Then what should I do? Jiang Li put on the expression of a good person helping others, smiling as he emphasized, fortunately, my cultivation is profound. I can help you find the Tao ancestor. That's what he said on the surface, but after speaking, his expression changed as he thought to himself. Even if the Yin-Yang heaven seal doesn't look for him, I must find the Tao ancestor. Jiang Li stood with his hands behind his back, the bewildered heaven seal beside him. He thought, the Tao ancestor originally ascended to the immortal world. Why is he here? Even if immortal Elder Changsuan were to retire, he should return to the 9 provinces. After all, the Tao ancestor was born in the 9 provinces. The more he worried, the more serious and stern his expression became. My intuition tells me that the Tao ancestor must know where the immortal world is, or something has happened to the immortal world. Jiang Li didn't forget to connect this to what immortal Elder Changsuan had said before. According to immortal Elder Changsuan, the extraterritorial heavenly demons were originally the responsibility of the immortal world. Now that the extraterritorial heavenly demons have appeared, something must have happened to the immortal world. Then he turned and proposed to the heaven seal beside him. First of all, if we can find the Tao ancestor, you must return to the 9 provinces with me. It agreed immediately without any hesitation. All right. But in its heart, the heaven seal was sneering smugly for having taken advantage of Jiang Li. Once I find my master, can you still force me to go back without any regard for my master? After the negotiation, the man and the spiritual treasure went around the city to explore and search. Everyone in this world wore the exact same outfit, plus glasses, looking just like robots. Jiang Li and the heaven seal flew around in the sky, but they didn't react at all. He came to a conclusion. It seems this world is no stranger to flying people and weapons. Jiang Li was extremely curious about this world and used his divine sense to look at the people. They're dressed the same, all in silver-white jumpsuits. Let me see. Oh, there are complex circuits in the clothes, which seem to include functions for lifting heavy objects, adjusting temperature, and relieving fatigue. Looking at the complex circuit diagrams inside the clothes and their functions, he couldn't help but wonder. What level has the technology in this world reached? After standing there hesitantly for a while, Gyani suggested, let's go to the library first. He calculated in his mind, if I scan the books with my divine sense, I can get a clear understanding of this world. That's what he thought, but reality was different. Gyani searched for a while, but couldn't find a library anywhere. Strange, I can't find a place where books are stored. At his wit's end, Gyani randomly found a person on the street to ask, excuse me, can you tell me how to get to the library? The person who received the question showed no reaction on their face and moved to walk past him. The person still didn't say a word, their feet still moving like a pre-programmed robot. Gyani immediately realized the strangeness of this. He couldn't help but think, he's walking in place, not even willing to look at me. So cold, as if answering my question is not his responsibility, so he completely ignores it. At this point, Gyani was completely bewildered. Once again, he used his divine sense to investigate, feeling uneasy in his heart. What is this world really like? In his divine sense was a scene of a girl rigidly explaining to a young man sitting at a counter. This is a nutritional meal designed based on your workload for today. The grain component is 80G, protein 100G, plant fiber component is. On another side, someone was trying to find a way to increase the world's birth rate. This is the result of my repeated calculations. Using this plan can extend the working time of employees by 17 minutes and 14 seconds, increasing production efficiency by 35.6%. Over here, another person stood before a newborn baby and announced mechanically, the survival rate of today's newborns has not met the standard. Please use the backup embryos. After watching this scene, Gyani gradually understood how people in this world live. It seems this is a cold and emotionless technological world. Everyone is just performing their duties. But something inside him urged him not to believe this. Living beings without emotions? I don't believe it. So he began to delve deeper into this world. Let me see what's really going on, starting by observing the process of a baby's birth. In Gyani's eyes now was the scene of people modifying something as a baby was born. He couldn't help but be surprised when he witnessed it, but this helped Gyani understand a bit more. I didn't expect them to deliberately make themselves emotionless. In his mind right now, he was analyzing how people made each other become cold and indifferent. The people here provide their reproductive cells to the hospital. The hospital will alter the genes in the reproductive cells, hiding the emotional genes, then find the most suitable match and grow the fetus in a nutrient solution. It is because of this action that it gradually affects the next generation. A baby like this, once born, will have no emotions, crying only to open its trachea. Although he understood the method, the purpose of why they did it was still a mystery. Why did they have to do this? The heaven seal beside him, through Gyani, understood more about this cold world. It couldn't help but wonder, a genuine and innocent person like Master, who values expressing laughter, anger, and scolding without hiding anything. Why would he choose to stay in this kind of emotionless world? Hearing the heaven seal say this, he felt something was a bit strange and asked directly, didn't you just gain a spirit not long ago? How do you know what kind of person the Tao ancestor is? The heaven seal, having its sore spot poked, jumped up and down at Gyani. Before I was born with a spirit, I also had a vague perception of the outside world. Otherwise, I wouldn't have recognized junior brother Chansuan. He was speechless and had no choice but to calm it down. I know, don't get agitated. Putting that aside for now, Gyani returned to the main topic. We should still go to the library. Don't you grasp karma? Try to find it. The heaven seal, now 30% helpless and 70% resigned, replied, I can grasp the karma of people and events in the 9 provinces. I can't see the karma of this world. Suddenly, someone in this world responded to them. We have light brains, so we don't need physical libraries. Hearing the voice that suddenly came from behind, he was a little bewildered. Someone is speaking a human language? Ming Zhong smiled warmly at the dazed man and spiritual treasure, then suggested, if you two are not busy, why not have a chat with me? The sudden turn of events left Gyani a bit unable to adapt. I saw this person with my divine sense long ago, but I didn't notice he had emotions. He asked doubtfully, you are? But in his heart, Gyani was still very wary of this person. After all, it's better to be careful. I have many speculations about the Tao ancestor. One of them is that the Tao ancestor is being imprisoned. A world that can imprison the Tao ancestor, I must treat it with caution. The person noticed his hesitation and immediately bowed to introduce himself. A pleasure to meet you. You two are guests from afar. You can call me President number 506. The Heaven Seal, hearing that he had personally bowed to introduce himself, also spoke up. My name is Inyang Heaven Seal. You can call me Heaven Seal. He was more concise. Jiangli, you know our origins? To answer Jiang Li's question, Ming Zhong waved his hand and a touch screen immediately appeared. Seeing it, he had a vague idea of what it was and asked, "This is a light brain." He confirmed Jiang Li's thought, not forgetting to add a few words of explanation. That's right, our world is filled with electromagnetic waves. The light brain exists within the electromagnetic waves. Everyone can summon their own light brain in the air. Looking at the things appearing on the screen, Jiang Li seemed to have an answer to his question. So that's how it is. The cameras in this world are everywhere. Now, it was Ming Zhong's turn to be curious and ask about the origins of these two strange individuals. Where are you two from? From another planet. He was a bit surprised to hear this question. People here also know the concept of a planet. In his mind, Jiang Li was using all his memory to apply what he knew. Although the 9 provinces and the emotionless world both belong to the continental world type, there are also planets, but these planets have no spiritual energy or oxygen. The environment is also extremely harsh. The temperature difference between day and night can be thousands of degrees, and no life will be born there. This universe has many planets, but not every planet is habitable, unlike the world of planets. After all, the environment of some planets is quite pleasant. The continental world has no such planets at all. Jiang Li didn't rush to introduce his own world, but asked Ming Zhong in return. Introduce your world first, then we will introduce ours. He felt a bit embarrassed after hearing that. It was my lack of consideration. I forgot to welcome guests from outside first. Later, the 3 of them appeared at Ming Zhong's house, as he had insisted on inviting his guests. To show my sincerity, I will cook personally. After all, the nutritional meals here probably won't suit the taste of guests from outside. Looking at the dish that didn't look very edible, just presented by Ming Zhong, it was indeed a bit unsuitable for them. Jiang Li could only helplessly lower his head and think to himself, luckily, I've already achieved Inidia. The Heavenly Seal beside him was also bewildered by this dish. Nuclear battery, what kind of dish is this? Why have I never heard of it? Ming Zhong then bowed and introduced himself once more. Then, I will now formally introduce myself. I am President number 506, the president of the 506th term. He took out an electronic card and began to explain to the 2. Before birth, each of us has our future profession decided by our genes. We take our profession plus a serial number as our name and 2. Differentiate. Ming Zhong didn't forget to introduce his own difference to the 2 guests before him. I am an exception. I felt the name President number 506 wasn't nice, so I gave myself the name Ming Zhong. I would be very happy if you 2 called me Ming Zhong. Jiang Li then frowned. He rested his cheek on his hand and asked the question that had been bothering him. So why do you want to erase your emotions? Of your own. Ming Zhong's expression immediately turned serious. His answer was beyond his expectations, because we want to live. After hearing the reason Ming Zhong gave, Jiang Li couldn't help but find it strange. Could it be that having emotions means you can't live? The Heavenly Seal beside him also found it strange and thought to himself, the living beings of the 9 provinces all have emotions, but I've never seen anyone die because of having emotions. He saw his confusion, but didn't rush to explain. Ming Zhong smiled and asked, I noticed you 2 were just circling in the sky above our human territory and didn't go to the other side. The Heavenly Seal then spoke up. It couldn't help but wonder. Could it be that the other side of the continent isn't human? Hearing this, Ming Zhong opened a screen and showed it to them. This is something from the other side of the continent. The thing that appeared on the screen looked extremely terrifying and ferocious. He added, we call them vicious beasts. Ming Zhong projected a territorial statistics map and continued to explain. Currently, more than half of the continent is already the territory of the vicious beasts. Our humanity only occupies 1/2, and our area is still gradually shrinking. Down, he slowly recalled and told the 2 about the vicious beasts and the measures they had tried. At first, these vicious beasts weren't too strong, just relying on missiles. We could still fight against the vicious beasts. We thought that as long as science and technology advanced to a new level, our weapons would become stronger, and we could soon deal with the vicious beasts. At this point, Ming Zhong's expression suddenly darkened somewhat, but we were optimistic too soon. Indeed, science has progressed, but the vicious beasts evolved even faster than us. The rapid evolution of the vicious beasts rendered all weapons ineffective. In the end, tens of thousands of nuclear bombs couldn't do anything to these vicious beasts. They were all blocked by them. After listening to him for a while, Zhongli vaguely figured something out. He rested his chin on his hand and thought to himself, these vicious beasts might be the demon beasts of this world. Their cultivation speed is getting faster and faster. The more Ming Zhong spoke, the more dejected he became. He lowered his eyes sadly. If this continues, our humanity will soon be wiped out by the vicious beasts. However, in just a moment, Ming Zhong pulled himself together and continued his story. We summarized our experiences and believe that the progress of science and technology is a process of accumulation and development. Blindly pursuing a white hair breakthrough alone is not enough. He explained the reason and analyzed how they created an emotionless world for the two. Therefore, we chose to have many generations get rid of emotions, focusing their energy on internal accumulation. After speaking, Ming Zhong added a few more things about the plan they had laid out. Then let another generation have emotions, using the legacy left by their predecessors. For example, technology experiments require continuous trial and error. Movies, novels, TV series, and so on. To develop technology, you can't just use science and technology to develop science and technology. This would be very slow. The development of science and technology also requires entertainment to provide inspiration. Another special thing about this world is that there are two alternating periods. The operation of each period is different. In the era of dense accumulation, an emotional president is elected. In the era of white hair, an emotionless president is elected. And Ming Zhong, standing here, is proof of one of the two periods. As you can see, we are in the accumulation period. I, as president, have only one mission in the era of dense accumulation, which is to decide when to start the white hair era. He continued to try and explain the reason for this to the two. It is believed that there is a transition point from dense accumulation to white hair. But calculations show that it should be decided by someone with emotions and an overall vision. Therefore, in the era of dense accumulation, we must choose a president rich in emotions. And of course, the reason the president of the white hair period is emotionless is the opposite. And the transition point from white hair to accumulation can be calculated. From an emotional perspective, people might not accept the result of this calculation. Therefore, in the white hair era, we must choose a president without emo. Tie-ins. It cannot be denied that with such a division, the efficiency is very good. With such a strategy, it's true that technology develops very quickly. One after another, we researched machines, optical brains, faux sun bombs, annihilation cannons, and so on. However, at this point, Ming Zhong frowned sorrowfully. However, even with our development efforts, we still can't keep up with the evolution speed of the vicious beasts. Our defense line retreats year after year. Their evolution speed is truly too fast. In the end, after many eras, they realized one thing. That's why we all understood, if things go on like this, humanity will be annihilated. But if we don't do this, our time until annihilation will be even shorter. Saying that, he sincerely placed a hand on his chest, his expression extremely worried as he pleaded with the two. "Can you, sir, save us?" Zhongli then spoke up. He voiced his question. Why not leave the continent and fly to another planet? After asking, Zhongli himself fell into contemplation. Based on the scientific and technological level of this world, it should be entirely possible to migrate to another planet. A day-night temperature difference of several thousand degrees, sandstorms thousands of meters high, could all be overcome. Hearing him ask that, Ming Zhong couldn't help but find it strange Don't you know, the farther from the continent, the stronger the gravity. How could one possibly fly out? After hearing this, Gyani seemed impressed. He said nothing and just walked out the door. Seeing this, he was a bit bewildered and followed to inquire, "Sir, are you leaving?" Before Ming Zhong could finish asking, Gyani shot straight up into the sky, leaving him and the heavenly seal to watch in a daze. He flew on, finally flying out of that planet and entering the universe. In the distant universe, Gyani stood observing the planet. Indeed, the higher one went, the stronger the gravity. At its peak, even a tribulation transcendent stage, cultivator couldn't resist it with their physical body. One had to reach a distance of about 100,000 meters for the gravity to disappear. Once done, he flew back to Ming Zhong's house. Gyani casually announced, "Indeed, it's impossible to fly out." In contrast to him, Ming Zhong was so shocked his eyes were about to pop out. He broke out in a cold sweat, extremely bewildered as he inquired of him, "Mr. Gyani, how could you do that?" Ming Zhong thought to himself, "I originally thought he was in possession of advanced alien technology." Ming Zhong looked doubtfully at the person who had just gone to space in an instant and was now standing before him. "But I never expected that he relied only on his flesh and blood. Just by jumping, he escaped the gravity that has bound us for thousands of years. But to my eyes now, I can't see any trace of technology being used." Seeing Gyani being admired, the heavenly seal got jealous. "Whatever he has, I have too." But then it suddenly realized something and corrected its earlier statement. I don't have legs, so I can only fly, not jump." Hearing this, Gyani teased the heavenly seal. "Drink more warm water, and you can become as strong as me." Yet Ming Zhong took that statement as truth. "Really? I'll issue a nationwide order to drink warm water when I get back." Gyani helplessly coughed twice and called him back. Ahem, that was a lie. This is the result of cultivation. Hearing these two words, Ming Zhong was dumbfounded. Cultivation, that's a very old word. But he quickly recovered his composure. Ming Zhong rested his chin on his hand and thought, in a situation where artillery has its limits and can hardly fight against the vicious beasts, these cultivators have long been thrown into the dust of history, only to be found in the optical brain library. Seeing him looking dazed, Gyani gave a little demonstration. He reached out his hand to absorb. Just like that, Gyani's whole body was surrounded by spiritual qi, and his powers seemed to increase. He held a little in his palm and showed it to Ming Zhong as an example, absorbing the surrounding spiritual qi and making it his own for use, that is cultivation. His reaction after seeing it was extremely strong. It's the energy of the vicious beasts. It turns out humans can actually absorb the energy of the vicious beasts. Hearing the nickname they gave to spiritual qi, the heavenly seal retorted, "This is spiritual qi. What vicious beast energy? It sounds so awful." Hearing this, Ming Zhong immediately explained to the two, "We know that the vicious beast can become stronger thanks to some unknown energy. So our science calls this type of energy vicious beast energy." He continued to talk about what they had tried in the past to make it clearer for the two. "Our science found that this energy can strengthen vicious beasts, so it should also be able to strengthen the human body. However, they did many experiments but still couldn't find a way to absorb it. Instead, we discovered that it could become a high-quality energy source for machines." Hearing this, the heavenly seal was a bit curious and asked further, "What about spirit roots? You couldn't find spirit roots?" It thought to itself, demon beasts cultivate based on their bloodline, while humans rely on spirit roots. Hearing the two words spirit root, Ming Zhong looked bewildered. "What is a spirit root?" Gyani held his hand up in front of him, explaining as he demonstrated. "A spirit root is not found through experiments. It must be a mortal body, comprehending the mysteries of heaven and earth, and then looking inward. At that moment, a spiritual light will be born in a single thought, which is originally due to the intersection of inner and outer space." A golden light from his hand shone directly at Ming Zhong. This is the key the human body is looking for, the spirit root. Gyani's whole body was also surrounded by it. He thought to himself, of course, this is only the very first method of finding a spirit root in the 9 provinces. Now, you just need a spirit root jade to test the quality of a 2-year-old child's spirit root. Immediately after, Ming Zhong's entire body was surrounded by spiritual qi, just like Jiangli a moment ago. He looked doubtfully at his two hands absorbing spiritual qi. Is this the spirit root? He thought to himself, I feel like there's a power. This power is traveling to every limb and bone. Every cell seems to have been waiting for a long time. They all seem to be going crazy absorbing this kind of power. After finishing his work, Jiangli smiled and said to Ming Zhong with a bit of tease, Dual spirit roots? Your aptitude is quite good. You have now entered the first level of qi refinement. You are now officially a cultivator. He still had a lot of doubts in his mind. Looking at his hands that were still absorbing spiritual qi, he couldn't help but ponder. I feel as if I become at least twice as strong as before. This is simply too terrifying. And I've only absorbed a little bit of spiritual qi. I never expected my body to have undergone such an earth-shattering transformation. After his demonstration for Ming Zhong, Jiangli explained, the above is a general overview of the cultivation system of the 9 provinces world, where I am from. Seeing his dazed expression, he had to ask for confirmation. Can you understand? His mind enlightened and his horizons broadened. Ming Zhong stammered in confirmation. So you're not from outer space, but from another world. 9 provinces, immortal world, cultivators, immortal qi. Thinking about the world he was in, he bowed his head and considered. It was the beasts that forced humanity to abandon emotions and focus on developing technology. If this were in the 9 provinces, one of the 9 great imperial dynasties or 6 great sects, just pulling out one person could solve it. Ming Zhong closed his eyes. Deep down, he was gradually accepting it. The difference between our world and the 9 provinces is indeed a chasm-like gap. Suddenly, he placed his hand on his chest and bowed to Jiangli with a sincere tone. I, on behalf of all humanity, hope that Mr. Jiangli and Mr. Heavenly Seal will help us deal with the demon beasts. Seeing Jiangli suddenly being revered, the Heavenly Seal, with its usual competitiveness, chimed in. Why ask him? Just leave it to me. Being too familiar with this habit, Jiangli didn't argue and just nodded slightly. In terms of both sentiment and reason, I must definitely make a trip to the demon beast side. At the same time, he also considered the human race on this side cannot have any existence that could threaten the Tao ancestor. So, the Tao ancestor is very likely imprisoned on the demon beast side. Seeing that Jiangli had agreed to his plea, Ming Zhong quickly brought out the masterpiece of advanced science. Then I'll take you to there. I have a flying car. He was overjoyed at having found a great ray of hope. According to the cultivation system Jiangli mentioned, he is the pinnacle of the 9 provinces, a great master at the Mahayana stage. With him taking action, the demon beasts are nothing but weak chickens and dogs, posing no threat at all. Suddenly a hand was placed on Ming Zhong.